Hey guys, it's Missy in 5 Kids Kitchen, and a lot of you have asked me about my cinnamon roll dough, and so I'm going to do it today in 3 parts. This is part 1, and so I have in here a cup of water, a teaspoon of salt, half a cup of sugar, and a half a cup of butter Crisco. You could probably use butter in here, I just never have changed the recipe. And so you're going to put it in there, and you're going to put it in the microwave about a minute, minute and a half, 2 minutes. And when you get it out, you're going to mix it all up to make sure everything's dissolved. And then you're going to let it cool. So I've been letting it cool about 5 minutes. You don't want to put it in there when it's super, super hot, because we're going to add yeast and we're going to add eggs to it, and it can do some crazy things to things like that. So, talk about yeast. So some of you have never done yeast, and so I want to talk to you about it. First of all, your water can't be too hot and it can't be too cold, because if it's too cold, it won't activate it. If it's too hot, it'll kill it, okay? So let me talk to you about how I do that. So first of all, this is what I'm using today. Nothing special. I know it says bread machine, but I like this. I just grab it. It's really quick. First thing about yeast is this. When you're doing the water, I always say, do it like if you were going to put your baby in the bathtub. You know how you'd put your arm under there and check and make sure you didn't burn the baby, it wasn't too cold for the baby. It was just that warm temperature. So that's what I recommend, just like you would put it in a baby's bath. Okay. So,
hello everybody.
Hey guys, Chris is videoing for me. So we're going to do 2 eggs, and we're just going to pop this in here. I know one of these are my farm eggs. One of them is just a regular egg. Not my farm egg. Somebody gave them to me. I don't have chicken. I got enough crazy. So, whoop, I forgot to get me a little towel. So anyway, you're going to put those in there. Chris is backing up so you can get me a towel, because we all know I make a mess. And then you're going to put your yeast in there. And let me clean up my thing there. Nice little lotion. So you're going to mix it up. Put that in there like that, and then the flour. So I'm using all-purpose flour. So I do 1 cup at a time when I put my flour in here. So I do 1 cup at a time. You're going to mix it in there. This here is a refrigerator dough recipe that I'm using. I will post the recipe in there. So I do it like this. And so it calls for 5 to 6. And the reason it calls for 5 to 6 is if it is a little bit like more humid outside today, then it may take less. Sometimes when it's real dry, or it may take more. Sometimes when it's real dry, it may take less. So you're going to mix that up in there. So that's 2 cups. I have to keep myself today, because normally I just dump it and fill. So just to kind of show you. So you're just going to mix it up. And I know this isn't a Pampered Chef spoon, but this spoon came from the Dollar Tree, and it is my favorite bread spoon. And so I just love this spoon for making bread. It's just got a nice curve and everything about it. I just haven't found a spoon that I like as well as this, so that's the reason I'm using it. So guys, not everything in my kitchen, believe it or not, is Pampered Chef. I know people are like, can't believe
We used to have some good wood ones, but they got broke.
So, alrighty. So then we're going to just keep adding flour. You'll add 1 cup at a time until it starts, like right now you can kind of tell it's starting to get doughy. And you want it to be able to pull away from the sides is the goal in the end, and not to be liquidy. Okay? So we're just going to keep mixing that a little bit. And make a mess all over my counter. So you can see how it's pulling from the sides when I push it away, but you can also see it doesn't have shape yet. And so that tells me I need to add more. So at this point, I start adding a half a cup at a time, because the key thing is not, if you want really nice, soft cinnamon rolls, is not to get too doughy, too thick. This is not biscuit dough, okay? This is not the dough you would use for biscuit dough. You don't want it to be pourable, but you also don't want it to be shaping right now, because it's going to rise and develop a shape on its own. Okay, so then what I'm going to tell you is this. So if you touch it, it shouldn't be too sticky. See right here, it's still sticky, but over here, not so sticky. So when you touch it, it shouldn't be too sticky. You should be able to do. So that tells me I need to add just a little bit more, because even when I'm mixing all this in together, it's still really sticky and sticking to the sides. So I'm going to do another half a cup. And I'm gonna mix that together, and you'll notice, I think this is gonna be enough, but I'll know when I get it all incorporated. So you're gonna mix it and mix there. So some people have told me, you know, I'm like, I send them the recipe and they're like, that's great, but I've never made bread. And I'm like, okay. So here I go. So I'm gonna tell you how I started making bread. Okay, so we went to Wyoming 16 years ago last month. Wow, February, yep. 16 years ago in February last month. JC was 6 months old, and we packed our bags. We moved to Buffalo, Wyoming. And actually we moved to Warland at that time. And when we went to Wyoming, we got there, and there wasn't bread like there is here. You went to the grocery store, you had a couple of choices at that time. There might be more now. There wasn't a whole lot of like Panera and things like that. The nearest Walmart was an hour and a half away. I'm not kidding you. Anyway, I'm telling you, Chris can tell you, the first thing I did when we talked about moving was I said, the Walmart had to be within 30 minutes. And I got there and it was an hour and a half away. I was like, it's a sign from God. Don't we love when we do that? Anyway, so I called up Sherry Aldrich and I said, I need some recipes. And she sent me some recipe book. And this recipe is actually in Second Baptist Church's cookbook that they sold the year I left or the year before I left. Okay, so it needs just a little bit more here. And I just opened the book and I read a little bit on yeast and I just started working it. And of course, Sherry gave me a couple.
There looks like there's some down here you ain't got mixed
Yeah,
in.
there is always. I do that stuff that Zachariah comes in and eats. And so Sherry gave me a couple of tips and I just started making it. And I just started doing it, and ever since then, I just find a recipe and I do it. Some turn out good, some I'm like, yeah, we won't be making that bread again. So that's what you should do. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to try things new. Okay, so let me just show you where we're at here because I like the way it's feeling now. And you'll be able to tell also, this is going to be a little gooey because it's been on the spoon. So I'm going to pop this in here. This is a bowl. It's got some oil in it. I always do that. And then I'm going to put this down in there. And then I'm going to roll it around in that oil because I found that that makes it a little bit softer. And use whatever oil you like. I don't like olive oil on my bread. I don't like that flavor in my bread.
Not for a sweet bread.
Yes,
anyway.
not for a sweet bread. So I'm using vegetable or canola. I don't even know which one we had. We had to buy both the other day because people were going crazy and bought all the oil. Anyway, so that's what it looks like.
That's our political rant for the day.
I'm going to put a towel, not this towel, but I have a green towel over there. And I'm going to put a towel over the top of it. And then this is called an overnight bread. So you put it in your refrigerator overnight. And so I'm going to put it in there until this evening. And then I'm going to get it out and show you what to do. So I recommend putting it in there 6 to 7, maybe 8 hours, letting it rise. It'll double. So when I pull it out, I'll show you that. But I'll post the bread dough recipe in the comments, and if you try it, please say, hey, it turned out, or hey, I need some help. So I've got about 8 shows going for virtual shows and stuff. If there's something that you're needing, I'm a small business and I'm helping support other small business. We're trying to eat out 1 time a week at a small business in town and do some things to cut back, of course. We're not eating there, we're picking it up and bringing it home, but we're trying to help that. So think of a small business that you can help and just try to pick, don't break yourself, but pick something that you can do for them. So thanks so much, guys. Post below if you're on a replay or if you were live. Let me know what else you want to see. And thank you so much for joining me, and 2 more parts today. Bye, guys.